Respected viewers and readers, currently following the program on the News Editor Desk YouTube channel, we consistently provide updates on the latest and most significant issues that have unfolded in the past 24 hours. Here is the detailed content, as per the new voice of Ukraine. Ukrainian forces once again pushed back the advance of Russian troops, eliminating enemy armored vehicles on the Vula front. However, it was revealed in an impressive photo shared by blogger and volunteer S. Sten. Mr. Sten, writing on Telegram, mentioned that among the Russian equipment, there are some tanks equipped with mine plows, using tactics similar to the early days of Moscow's advance. Moscow's forces have deployed on a smaller scale to push back the Russian troops. The Ukrainian military used anti-tank missiles, artillery, and drones to eliminate Russian military equipment. Previously, President Volodymyr Zelensky declared that the Ukrainian military had repelled the latest Russian attack near the town of Vula in the eastern province of Dnipro. Vula has witnessed some of the fiercest clashes between the Russian and Ukrainian forces in the 20-month-long conflict. Zelensky shared on Telegram that the opposing side had attempted to advance towards Vula, but the Ukrainian military prevented them and inflicted significant losses on the enemy, with many pieces of equipment destroyed and soldiers killed or injured. The conflict has been escalating along the eastern front in recent weeks. Russian forces are trying to regroup and recover from their losses before launching further attacks. According to Alexander Stun, a spokesperson for the Ukrainian Joint Forces, the enemy continues to try to encircle Adka, but currently their efforts have diminished. Russia is now attempting to regroup and recover from its losses to launch deeper attacks. Taking control of Adka would hold great military significance because if Russia seizes it, the Ukrainian forces would be pushed out of the Donetsk region, and the Russian forces would gain access to key roads and supply routes in the area. Furthermore, capturing Adka at this point would have significant political implications for both the local and military authorities in Ukraine. In another development, armed groups in Iraq, claiming to be part of the resistance, have fired a series of rockets at the Karab Asia military base in northeastern Syria. This group had previously confirmed conducting rocket and drone attacks on U.S. military bases in Iraq and Syria. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR, also reported 10 attacks on the Anadi base, along with suicide UAVs targeting a U.S. base in the Anadi area of rural Hasaka. SOHR noted that while there were no reported casualties, these attacks were seen as retaliatory measures against U.S. forces amid escalating tensions in the Gaza Strip. This incident marks the 19th attack on U.S. bases in Syria, recorded since October 19th. During this period, U.S. forces were attacked 14 times in Iraq and 9 times in Syria, with most of these attacks being thwarted by the U.S. military. Washington believes these attacks are backed by Iran. Additionally, the Ain al-Assad U.S. airbase was attacked by UAVs, and the base was the deployment site for U.S. and coalition forces in western Iraq since 2003. Iraqi security forces conducted a search in the vicinity of Ain al-Assad and launched an investigation. In response to these events, the United States deployed a significant number of naval forces to the Middle East since the conflict between Israel and Hamas erupted nearly 2 weeks ago. Earlier in October, Palestinian militants carried out a rocket attack on a Turkish military base in northern Syria, resulting in injuries to 5 police officers and 3 soldiers. Following the violence, Turkey retaliated by launching strikes against targets in rural areas of Ain Issa, targeting a Turkish military base in the DBIC area, in response to the attacks. Subsequently, the U.S. launched an airstrike on an arms and ammunition depot in eastern Syria, used by Iran and its proxy forces. President Joe Biden also sought to send a deterrence message to Iran, considering the escalating Israel-Hamas conflict. The U.S. deployed 900 soldiers to the Middle East to operate advanced air defense systems and Patriot missile defense systems. Additionally, 2 U.S. carrier strike groups were dispatched to the Middle East earlier. Furthermore, in recent developments, the evacuation of injured people and foreign nationals from Gaza was postponed as Hamas attempted to transport some of its injured fighters through the Rafah border crossing to Egypt for treatment. It was revealed that about 1/3 of the individuals on Hamas's list turned out to be members of Hamas, which raised concerns. Currently, there are around 6,000 foreign nationals stranded in the conflict zone, including 500 Americans, primarily dual citizens. Since the outbreak of the conflict between Israel and Hamas on October 19th, the Palestinian Ministry of Health reports that nearly 9,000 Palestinians have been killed, while the Israeli government states that its casualties are over 1,400 people, mainly civilians. In light of the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the hostage issue, there is a growing international concern. During a meeting with Israeli leaders on November 4th, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken called for a humanitarian ceasefire. Blinken emphasized that a humanitarian ceasefire would facilitate the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza and aid the countries seeking the release of hostages. Furthermore, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres have both emphasized the need to increase the scale of humanitarian assistance to Gaza. Both sides also agreed on the importance of renewing international efforts to reach a long-term resolution to the conflict and progress toward implementing the two-state solution. Regarding the conflict situation in Gaza, on November 4th, the Palestinian Health Ministry reported that at least 20 people were killed and dozens were injured in an attack on a school in northern Gaza. The attack targeted the Osama bin Zayed school in the Anaptawi area of northern Gaza, which had been turned into a temporary shelter for displaced Palestinians. Ambulances and medical staff were dispatched to the scene to evacuate the victims to hospitals, as casualties mounted in the ongoing conflict in Gaza. In the meantime, the Israeli Defense Forces stated that the school had been used by Hamas to transport fighters and weaponry, justifying their airstrike. The attack resulted in the deaths of several Hamas members,